and then weights and measures, and then I will give you some geographical proof that the entire ancient atlas is a Vedic atlas, because it was the Vedic geographers who charted the earth. So naturally all the words in Europe and in England, they are all Sanskrit. Now let us begin from Russia. Russia, R-U-S-S-I-A, you pronounce it phonetically, it is Russia country, of the Rushis. And another proof, the progenitor of our Rushikula was Kashyap. And Kashyap has two wives, Diti and Aditi. Those born of Diti were Daitya, and those born of Aditi were gods. And therefore, it was the Daitya people of Vedic culture. They were both of Vedic culture. But the Daityas were more boisterous, more quarrelsome, more tyrannical. Just as Russia and America today are at loggerheads. But both are Christians. Both wear suit and boot and they have the same culture. Yet they are at loggerheads. Similarly, Daityas and Aditya were two clans who were always at loggerheads during Kruta, Treta and Dwapar Yuga, etc. And among them the Daitya clan, which was all as progressive, because just as Russia and America have almost the same weapons, the same capability, scientific capability. Similarly, Daityas and Adityas, they had the same scientific capability. Both were people of Vedic culture, but both were opposed to each other. And that Daitya clan ruled in Europe. And therefore, this Kashyap Rushi was their progenitor. And the Caspian Sea is named after Kashyap, because it was Rushi country. And because it was the abode of Kashyap Rushi, therefore in that Rushi country there is a sea by the name of Kashyap. So you see how Vedic history is true in all its details. Now attached to Vedic Russia, this Rushi country, is Siberia. It is called Siberia because it is Siberia. It is a land which is always, it is snowing, it is very cold and there are blizzards. Therefore nobody goes there for a permanent habitation. They go there, have a temporary encampment for some expedition or some observation, they come back. So this Siberia is a temporary encampment. And the Russians call it Siberia. And the spelling Siberia is Siberia. There is a country of temporary hutments. Now the region which is attached to Russia is Prussia. Prussia is Pro-Russia. That's an extension or adjunct of Rushi country. Now Austria is the land of Astras, missiles. Australia is Australaya, the abode of Astras. And that's why it's a desert, because all these Rama and Mahabharata people, they drive their nuclear missiles away from these continents because Australia is away. And therefore since it has become a desert, because it was Australaya. Then this Luxembourg was Lakshmi Durga, of goddess Lakshmi. And the Germans call themselves their country. They don't call it Germany, they call it Deutschland. Deutschland is Daityasthan. Then the Dutch also are Daityas, because in India also a town in UP which is called Bairahich was known as Brahadaditya. So just as Brahadaditya has changed to Bairahich in modern times, similarly Daitya has changed to Dutch. So this Daitya clan, which began from Kashyap Rushi and Rushia Desh, was ruling over this Deutschland and Dutch, and they are all Daitya people. Now this is about general regions. I can tell you that the whole of this Africa at that time was known by two names, Kushadvip and Shankhadvip. And Mali, Somali were the brothers of Ravan who fled after the Ramayana war, and they had Mali, Somali kingdoms are in Africa. Then Dar es Salaam of Africa is Dwara Ishalayam. That is, it was the gateway to some big temple. So I want to tell that whosoever wants to undertake, he should try to find out the ruins of some big temple, otherwise Dwareshalayam wouldn't give its name to that Dar es Salaam. So the whole of Africa and the Abyssinian. It so happened that last time when I came to England in 1977, I met one Krishnanand. And he said he often goes to deliver religious discourses to Ethiopia. And one time when he was going, he asked his some Indian merchant there to arrange an interview with the Emperor Haile Selassie. So he said, when that engagement was fixed, I thought, what present should I give him? So he asked some of the Gujarati people there as to, have you got a copy of the Ramayana? So they said, we don't have it in Sanskrit, but we have it in Gujarati. So he said, doesn't matter, because after all, he is a Christian Negro emperor, what can he understand? I will only give him a Ramayana wrapped up in a silken cloth. So he borrowed a Ramayana and wrapped it up in a fine silken scarf and presented and said, Your Majesty, I am presenting to you the most sacred thing of our India. So he said, what is it? So he said, it is the story of Ramayana. Oh, that is nothing new to us. The Negro Emperor Rastafari tells Krishnanand that is nothing new to us. We are Kushites. We belong to the Kush Empire, and Kusha was the son of Ram. So this Krishnanand, he said, I felt so shocked and shame that I thought I was going to tell him something new, but he said, we are ourselves followers of Kusha. Then he said, I immediately went to a shop and asked them for a book of history which they teach to 8th standard or 10th standard students. And there it was written that all the Africans are Kushites, followers of Kusha. So that is why now you get that Egypt is Ajapati, because Ram is known as Raghupati, because Raghu was one of the ancestors. So Ram is also known as Ajapati because Aja was one of the ancestors. Dasharatha's father was Aja. Rama's grandfather was Aja. So Ajapati is the name of Egypt. And all its rulers are named Rameses I, Rameses II, Rameses III because it was Rama, Ishas means Ram the god.
Wow.
So the royal family of Egypt is named after Ram. The royal family of Siam is named after Ram. The royal family of Hunza, which is a state now in Pakistan, it is named after Ram. So Ram was really an ideal ruler whose name was followed everywhere. Now, all you know, these European envoys, they wear a tailcoat. Now you ask them, what is this tailcoat? Its origin is found in this Ram tradition. That Rama's envoy Hanuman used to have a tailcoat. And therefore all the envoys of Europe still wear the tailcoat. This is the explanation which I have given in this book. Because it is Ram tradition. The way Rama's envoy was dressed, their envoys are dressed. Now Rome is Ramnagar. And I have slides here that in ancient homes which have been dug up in Italy, there is Ramayana painted on the walls. And here the question of motivation comes. That though they are all Christians supposed to be great scholars, etc., they are absolutely ignoring Ramayanic paintings which are found in their ancient homes. They say, we don't know what funny paintings with people with tails and so on are painted by our ancestors. So this is what happens when you change your religion. You lose the motivation to inquire and investigate into your ancient. Now this Rome is named after Ram because now you see, in English language or in European language, O of Sanskrit is changed to O. In Sanskrit the negative is Na. Na means no. So Na, in Europe it is called no. Then Gama, Gacha, Gati, they say go. So go becomes go, no becomes no. Therefore Ram becomes Rome and Pap becomes Pope. So this Rome, now Italy. Italy is a Sanskrit word. Italy, like Dharatali, Rasatali. Because it is at the tala that is written at the bottom of Irupa Khanda. So Italy is a Sanskrit name. Rome is a Sanskrit name. Then Ravenna is named after Ravan. Just as Rome is named after Ram, Ravenna is named after Ravan in Italy. And Milano is named after Bharat Milap. Bharat Milap is a very important episode of Ramayana when Ram and Bharat meet. So Milano gets its name because Ram Lila used to be celebrated in Rome formally and Bharat Milap used to be celebrated there. So Rome named after Ram, Ravenna named after Ravan, Verona named after Varun, Milano named after Ram, Bharat, Milap. So the whole country is all Ram. Now I will tell you about Britain. Britain is the apabhransh or the malpronunciation of the word Brahatsthana, that is the big Isles. And now they have translated into Great Britain. They don't know that Britain itself means Brahatsthana. Just as this same thing happens with Nile, River Nile. The original Vedic name of river Nile was Neela Krishna, Neela Ganga, Neela Saraswati, they used to call it. So that became very difficult for them after they lost touch with Sanskrit, and they began to call it Neel. Now Neel itself means blue, but they forgot that Neel means blue. So they said Blue Nile. So similarly, the British people have forgotten that Brahasthan of Britain is Brahasthan. Brahat itself means great. But that tradition, that memory of that our isles are great, so they create bitter. Now the word English and England are also Sanskrit. It was Angulasthan, the finger-sized, finger-length country. And also Yava Angula Hasta. Angula is one of our measures. And the flexibility of our measures is that supposing you want to construct a temple, then it so happened that the standard, they said, all right, what should be the standard measurement? Say the height of the owner, height of the Raja, whosoever is commissioning the temple, or the height of the architect. That was called the Angula. That is the main measure. And then say the door, entrance gate should be about 5 times that Angula. Then the entire height of maybe 20 times of that Angula. So similarly, when the Vedic people charted Europe, they took England as the Angula. That is the measuring rod by which they measured. Because when you have to measure continents, you take one of the lands itself as one of the standard measures, and that was called Angula. So Angulasthan become Angula end. Because what we call Lamsthan, they will call lampstand. Then what we call Granthi, they will say gland. So Ant and Than of Sanskrit becomes and. So Anguli land, Angulisthan become Anguli hand, and that is England. Then just as we say Bal, in Sanskrit Bal means a child. And anything which a child does, childish pranks, we say Balish. So that ish pratyay of Sanskrit is being used everywhere in English. They say boyish, upish, shortish. So the ish, the language of the Angula people became Angulish. That is English. So Angulish is the Sanskrit word, Angulisthan is England. And now I will tell you all the cities, rivers in England are all Sanskrit. For instance, you have King's Court, Chalcote, Heathcote, Northcote. Now this is the same as in Bhadrakot, Akkalkot, Siddhakot, Amarkot as in India. In India we have Akkalkot, Siddhakot, Bagalkot, Lohakot, Rajkot. In England we have Chalcote, Heathcote, Northcote. Coat was the defensive wall around the city. And this coat which you wear is also the defensive wall around your body. So this coat is a Sanskrit word. Coat is the defensive wall. Then you have other cities named as, other places named as Pembrokeshire, Warwickshire. These are like Trambakeshwar, Mahabaleshwar. And now Canterbury which you referred, I can explain to you how Canterbury is Shankarpuri. First CAN, you should pronounce as sun. Because in C, they have 4 Sanskrit pronunciations. They sometimes use C as curve, as in cot, cuff. And they sometimes use C as sir, sure and sure in Sanskrit, as in center, civic, civil. So in this word Canterbury, you pronounce CAN as sun, as you pronounce CEN in center as set. So this is Shan. Now ter, what we call nautica, that is concerning the boat, they will say nautica. So instead of nautica, they will say use T in place of K. Similarly, what we call a Nayak, that's an army commander, they will call Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T. So K is replaced by T. Therefore in Canterbury, instead of T, you put K. Then it is Shankar, C-A-N-K-E-R. And then Puri is Puri, Krishna Puri, Sudama Puri, Jalapuri. So Vatupuri is Jalapuri. So therefore, Canterbury is Shankarpuri. And I wrote a letter to Dr. Robert Ramsey about 3-4 years back, saying that according to my research, you were the Vedic priest of Shankarpuri, as Pope was the Vedic priest of Vedavatika and in Ramnagar. So he gave that letter to his librarian, and the librarian wrote to me that Dr. Robert Ramsey has forwarded your letter to me for reply. Your letter is very interesting, and this matter is very ancient. So we don't know whether what the position was. That's the naturally, I mean, he half accepted that it may be right. So it was Shankar Puri. And therefore now I am writing another article, I have given another article to New Life, saying, identifying the Vedic sites in Great Britain. You know, the Edinburgh is our Vedanam Puram, because Vedas in Upper Brahmish, after Mahabharat war, when pronunciation became lax and there was no school education, Gurukul education, then Vedas began to be termed as Edda. And the ancient-most scripture of the Scandinavians, Norwegians, Swedish and Denmark people, is Edda. That is a Upper Brahmish, that's a malpronunciation of the word Veda. Therefore, in Europe, Vedas were, after the Mahabharat war, after thousands of years of Mahabharat war, they were called Edda. And Edanam Puram was Edinburgh. That is Vedanam Puram. And this information is given by Dorothy Chaplin, who has written a book called Celtic and Hindu Links. In that she has said that Edinburgh gets its name from the Vedas, Vedanam Puram. Now the other Canterbury, I told you, Shankar Puri. Then the names Pembrokeshire, Warwickshire, Trambakeshwar, Mahabaleshwar. Now the Southampton University to which I had been, and there is a corresponding Northampton. So Southampton, Northampton are Dakshinapattan and Uttarpattan. PTON ending is our ending. Vijayapatnam, Srirangapatnam we say. So Pattana, we generally gave the name to a port. So Southampton, Northampton, these are Uttarpattan, Dakshinapattan. Then there is an Arun river. Thames is Tamasa because it is cloudy, muddy. So it is called Tamasa. And the name Tamasa cross. It has 8 directions because it is Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Krishna. And in front of it, supposing this is the altar, then at here there is a stand like this, and there is a Garud on there. So Garud is the Vahan, Garud is the mount of Lord Krishna. So there is Lord Krishna Sudarshan Chakra on the main altar, you know. This is a very, I regard it as a very spiritual magic, that though England became Christian in the 6th century AD, and it is 1300 years, yet the main altar in St. Paul's is, there is no Jesus. This is very surprising. Jesus is relegated to the 2 corners in small little crucified images, but the main altar has a Sudarshan Chakra on it. The chakra ream is not there, but the 8 spokes are there, and among them 4 spokes are Trishul, trident. So there is a Garud in front, golden Garud, and you know the golden stand of the golden Garud is a Simhasan. There are Simha images, lion images at the bottom. Then even the throne of the queen, king, monarch here, it is placed in the Westminster Abbey. There in Westminster Abbey, it's a Simhasan because it's a chair like a chair, presidential chair, but there are 4 golden lions attached to the 4 legs. And there is under the shelf of the seat, supposing this is the seat where this queen sits, then under the shelf there is a stone, very rough stone, which is of this color, orange color. Because when our Vedic Kshatriyas came doing Digvijay to different parts of the world, they always carried an auspicious orange color stone on which they had their Rajabhishek, their crowning ceremony. And that crowning ceremony, that ancient custom of having a ochre color stone under the throne is still there. So all this shows that it is a Vedic culture, and Sanskrit language existed all over the world. Now about France, when I wrote to the Department of French Civilization, Harvard, the word Paris is an abbreviation of the term Parisorium. It is given in Julius Caesar's memoirs. London also is a modern this short form. The real name is Londonium. Now this is a Sanskrit form. Kachipuram, Vijayapatnam, we say. So Londonium is a Sanskrit form. Similarly, the name of Paris was Parisorium. Now Parisorium itself was a malpronunciation of the words Parmeshwariyam. So what you call the Notre Dame Cathedral was the temple of Parmeshwari, the Vedic goddess, mother goddess. And that is now converted, when France was converted to Christianity, the Vedic temple was converted to a Christian temple. And they call it Notre Dame. Notre Dame means our goddess. And there is, on the Notre Dame temple, there are the signs of 12 Rashis, 12 zodiacal signs, Scorpio, Leo and so on. Because it was a Navagraha Puja in all our temples, Navagraha Puja used to take place. So those Rashis, the 12 zodiacal signs are embossed on that temple. Now architecture, because in ancient times when there was Vedic culture all over, then the music was Vedic music, the medical system was Ayurveda, and the architecture was Vedic architecture. So now you imagine this Notre Dame Cathedral. It is studded with images right from bottom to top of men, saints, nuns, animals, and so on. You see the same thing in India. You go to South Indian temple, they are studded with images of elephants, tigers, dancing girls, drum beaters, Shehnai players. So this studying of a building, of a temple, with all the scenes of life and all the men and animal world is a Vedic custom. So that way, then there is another thing. In England, the Royal Secretariat is called Whitehall. And in America, the Royal Secretariat is called Presidential Secretariat, is called the White House. This has an origin in our Vedic culture. According to Vedic culture, the king must always sit in a Dhavalagraha. Dhavalagraha is the White House. This has been mentioned by Huan Sang, the Chinese traveler who came to India. He said, I met King Harshavardhan in his Dhavalagraha, in his White Palace. Then Bhanabhatta, the Sanskrit poet and dramatist who has written Harsha Charita, the life of Harsha, he has also said that Harsha used to live in his Dhavalagraha. So this Dhavalagraha tradition, because it was all the time impressed upon the Vedic ruler, that he must provide his subjects a truthful, simple, honest, right administration. And therefore, if you go to Lal Killa, Delhi, Red Fort, Delhi and Red Fort, Agra, the royal apartment there of white marble. Now, of course, after Mughal occupation, they are calling it Diwani Khas and the king's own chamber, because the Mughals stayed there. And I have written books, Delhi's Red Fort, Hindu, Lal Fort, Agra, Red Fort, the Hindu building. So those forts, they are of orange color from the outside. And the king's own palace in those forts is a Dhavalagraha. So this Dhavalagraha tradition and studying a temple with scenes of men, animal and dancers and drum beaters and so on is a Hindu tradition, Vedic tradition. Then, initially I told you that according to the Western system, the world progressed from an uncivilized state to a civilized state. That is from the Stone Age stage to the Moonship Age stage. But according to Vedic culture, it started from godly excellence and godly expertise. And that is true. Because today, supposing if monkeys developed into men and men from cavemen, they developed into big scientists of reaching the moon, then it is very easy. You just leave your children and let them progress. Because especially modern children have great advantage. They have an automobile, they have a telephone, they have a radio, they have a TV. Science is everywhere being showered. And yet if you leave a child to learn by himself, he won't learn anything, neither ABC. So anybody, no matter what atmosphere is around him, he has to learn from ABC. Therefore this idea which the Darwinian theory which says that man progressed himself is absolutely wrong. There is such a big gap that supposing you are on the managing committee of a children's school, a kindergarten school, yet you will try to hire or employ the highest qualified MA, PhD, D.Litt person to teach even a child. Because you know that the greater the gap between the teacher and the taught, the better the education. Therefore Vedic culture says that initially when God created this world, He created Dhanvantari as the master of medicine. He created Vishwakarma as the master of engineering. And He created the Gandharvas who are master musicians. So here Vedic culture and the modern view is absolutely at opposite. And the Vedic view is most scientific, that it is people of the highest expertise who can train others. If everybody is a jungly man, he can't improve himself. And for this we have got a contemporary proof that the Red Indians of America and the Maoris of Australia, for generations they are in that stage. They are still primitive, in that primitive stage. So that's why the Vedic view is very scientific. So even the architecture is Vedic. The music, I'll tell you a few because it's about 10 o'clock, getting 10 o'clock. I give you proof about architecture and the other proofs. Now I'll give you about music. Because Gandharvas were the music originates of Vedic music and Vedic culture existed. Therefore it was Vedic music which has given rise to all this. I have quoted it from Western authors that the Saptaswara of Vedic music were copied Iran. And under the Western that 7 notes. So the 7 Western notes are Vedic music. And another proof is that we call it Sangeet. Sangeet, that becomes this song. Modern English is there, sing song, singer, sing song, singer, sing. So it is Sangeet. Now word harmonium. I mean everybody thinks it is a Western word. It's a pure Sanskrit word. Because our Saptaswara, the 7 books of Vedic music, are Saregama Padani. So any instrument which produces this sound is Saregama Padaniyam. That is Sanskrit ending. Now out of Saregama Padaniyam you average it and remove Gapada. Then it will be Saremaniyam. Now Saremaniyam, you know Sa is pronounced as Ha. Because semisphere is pronounced as hemisphere. Just as semicircle, like semicircle, the hemisphere should be the real word. But you are calling it hemisphere. So Sa becomes Sa. So Saremaniyam becomes Harmonium. So Harmonium is a Sanskrit word. Then violin. Violin is a Sanskrit word, Jiva Leena. You know, leaning against this word lean with something, he leans against it. So this word lean is a Sanskrit word. And violin, V-I-O-L-I-N, is Jiva Leena. That instrument, when you play it, your mind gets engrossed. Then word harp is from Sarpa, because Sarpa becomes harp. That is why this herpes, you know, herpes, the disease in which you have a very artistic formation of some eruption on your skin is called herpes, because it's like a serpent. So the Ayurvedic